Welcome back to Network Africa. South Africa's Parliamentary Protection Service has forcibly removed members of the opposition Economic Freedom Fighters Party from the chamber as they attempted to prevent an address by President Jacob Zuma. The left-wing EFF argued that President Zuma was not fit to address the House after recent court decisions against the president. EFF members were physically forced out of Parliament building by security, including a female member of the party. Now, the president has been under increasing pressure since a court ruled in March that he had violated a constitution in failing to pay back public money used to upgrade his rural home.
We are asking you and asking this House not to allow the president to speak here up until there is a process to rehabilitate him. There must be a rehabilitation process.
Let's understand what really happened in Parliament recently. Our Johannesburg Bureau Chief Betty Divya joins us now more from the city. Betty, thanks for joining us on Network Africa. Exactly how did this brawl begin? I mean, how did it progress to where we are now?
Well, it was expected. They had threatened. And a few days back, there was a court ruling. They took an urgent motion to court, asking that the court prevents the leadership of the House from forcibly, or as they say, legally forcing them out of the chamber of the Parliament. But that was thrown out. So they got to this point. But they had promised, when the president didn't resign or wasn't impeached, that they will never recognize him or allow him to speak in Parliament, and they're keeping to that promise. Some of the other parties were not present, like Hope said they do not recognize him, they would honor him by being there, so they were not present. So they didn't want the president to speak, and disrupting motion after point of order, they had to get them to leave the Parliament.
But were they able to get any questions in before all of this started? Did the president get an opportunity to also answer any of the questions?
This is one of the quarterly question answer sessions. The president usually gets the questions ahead and prepares his answers, but there are opportunities for follow-ups if you're not satisfied or if you want to add to what you have already sent to the president. So there were about 12 questions and many more follow-ups, touching on issues from the economy, ocean economy, research in traditional medicine, legalization, the request for the legalization of marijuana, and of course, Nkandla, which was brought by the leader of the Democratic Alliance, that's Musi Maimane. So he got to answer. By the time the EFF members of parliament left, he got to answer. It was heated at some points, especially when he was asked about the funding for his homestead in Nkandla, brought by the leader of the DA. The president got a bit angry and said that he was asked if he lied, to the nation concerning the funding or whether it was bond to build. And he said, look, it was funded by me and my family, but the issue of the upgrades, security upgrades listed by the Constitutional Court in that ruling that we referred to in March, those are the issues done by the parts done by government. But the building itself, everybody refers to Nkandla, is funded by my family through a bond.
Well, Betty, very quickly, if the president, as you said, got the questions ahead of time, will he still be expected to respond to them by tomorrow? Will he be expected in Parliament, or could he just send in the answers to the questions in some other format?
He answered the questions. Okay. He answered questions today. He did answer, because he usually gets, that's a tradition. He gets them ahead and he prepares his answer. But the follow-ups, he answered his questions today.
And what about that trip the president will be making to Qatar? What's that all about?
It's a state visit in the next few days. South Africa and Qatar have a good relationship, economic and otherwise, trade relations. We know that he will be visiting, going with about 6 or 7 ministers. And the last time he was there on a state visit was in January 2012. And from then, the trade South Africa to the Emirates has got from the state of Qatar has grown from $4 billion US to about $7 billion in 2015. And he'll be meeting the Emir of Qatar, and there'll be bilateral meetings, follow up from what has been agreed before as well. And the interest of South Africa mostly is in the petrochemical industry. You know, Qatar has reserves, helps, Sasol is quite present there, helping out with their gas reserves.
Betsy, appreciate you joining us on Network Africa today. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Our Johannesburg Bureau Chief Betty Dibia from Johannesburg. Meanwhile, a group of academics from Zimbabwe has set up a thriving farm growing vegetables and poor food crops on land in South Africa's Western Cape province. About 1 million Zimbabweans live in South Africa after fleeing economic crisis and political violence at home over the last 15 years.
A weekend trip to Malmesbury last year turned out to be a life-changing event for 5 Zimbabwean academics when they came across this plot of land in South Africa's Western Cape province. Albert Ntanga, Basirai Magunje, Walter Kumalo, Masimba Paradza, and Dr. Ignatius Matemati. They noticed the land and, on inquiring further, landed an opportunity to farm on it for a year for free. The aspiring farmers only had to pay for the electricity they used and were given full access to farming equipment. Growing up in rural Zimbabwe, farming was not new for the men, as they routinely did small subsistence farming back home. But they focused more on academics rather than careers in agriculture.
The land was usable but was not fertile. So what we did, if you look at the type of sand that we have here, it's a bit of sand soil, which doesn't have much nutrients. So you need to add value to the land so that you could farm it. That's what basically we did. We add value to the land, the nutrients, by putting chicken manure, cow dung manure, trying to improve the soil. But the land was not useless.
Now known as the N7 Malmesbury farmers, they now pay about $80 a hectare to the landowner to keep their dream farm going.
We have plans to bring on board South Africans who are really willing to learn from us. So every window is open and there is no boundaries. When I look at the future, there's no limit. We can get there, we can refill the silos of South Africa.
There's a huge difference. If I spend a day in the engineering sector, it's stressing, it's highly demanding, but when you come to the farming side of things, it's enjoyable, it's stress relieving. We have a strong passion for farming. Just seeing crops growing just makes us feel happy.
An estimated 1 million Zimbabweans live in South Africa after fleeing the crisis at home.
If you are living in a certain city, you gotta make use of what is there. So these guys made a unique success story whereby they actually approached the owner of the land and asked them, could we farm here, you know? And they didn't say, let us go back to Zimbabwe and ask for land in Zimbabwe. They are working here, their families are here, they need to provide for their families, and they need to do, you know, and they need to be recognized. And what they're doing is not about, can I go back to my country, you know, but can I contribute to the city where I'm staying? Can I contribute? Can I do something better for the city?
The farmers are now working to expand their crop production from 3 hectares to 15 hectares and grow more vegetables, which they supply to clients at nearby Cape Town Epping Market.
When Network Africa returns, Libya's Coast Guard intercepts a dinghy carrying over 100 migrants traveling to Europe and bringing them to Tripoli.